Many thanks for making time to speak to us, Mr. Ayota. Just walk us through the performance. The results have just come out, and lots of talk on the side. NSSF in the headlights yet again. Just walk us through the highlights.
Okay. In 2015, we set up what we call the 10-year strategic plan. It is basically anchored with 4 planks, centered around the customer, around the staff, around the growth of the fund, and around processes. And at that point, we are going into a direction. That strategic plan basically ends in 2025. So when you look at our performance for this year on those 4 planks, it's important to keep that long-term view in it. On the growth of fund, our estimation would be 11.1 trillion shillings from 9.98 trillion shillings from the previous year. We hit 11.3 trillion. So basically, we met that strategic objective as we move towards the 20 trillion shilling mark. We also had a target for our processes, which is basically be able to process benefits on an average of 80 days, which we hit. We also had a target regarding our customers. How happy are they with us? We maintained that at 84%. And then for our staff, we basically wanted them to be at 86%, we're at 87%. Now, that's the performance of the fund. Now, I know where members have become a bit disgusted. Wait a minute. But you announced that you're going to give us less interest than we gave you last year. Our interest targeting is an interesting one. We start off with the 10-year inflation rate, because what we want to do is always to beat inflation.
Beat inflation, yes.
Then we add 200 basis points or 2%. The 10-year inflation rate for this year is 6.7%. Plus 2%, 8.7%. So our targeting for this year was 8.7%. Our MD said yesterday, and this way, the MD says that he is sure the minister is going to announce a rate that's much higher than that 8.7%.
But Patrick, this is a very contentious issue because using CPI as a metric for paying out as an asset manager, as a pension fund, would that be a fair assessment? Would that be a fair metric? Inflation, would that be a fair metric?
Yes, because it gives the member what we call a real return. Because remember, one of the things we have to do as an NSSF is to protect members' funds. And protection comes in 2 ways. Protect them against physical loss, then protect them against value erosion. In other words, that inflation never erodes their value.
Patrick, I'm going to wear the cap of an asset manager here.
Exactly.
Why not get, let's say, the leading asset managers across East Africa, get a threshold, get a benchmark, get a metric that is maybe an average, a weighted average for that matter, and use that as maybe a benchmark for you, plus or minus, plus 100 basis points?
If we used the benchmark in the market, our target would be lower than our own target. There is no asset manager that's beating us, and that's the truth. So we can't go lower. I mean, we have to go higher. Now, what people are concerned with is you gave us 15% last year.
Yes,
why are you going to give us less than 15%?
Okay.
And we say, we understand.
Patrick, other contentious issues is EAC headwinds. Now, the MD mentioned this yesterday. Tanzania down 21%. Kenya also feeling the pinch. And this leaves me wondering, if you're exposed to equities at just over 30%, and you're feeling this much of the shock when it comes to the equity front, give me a sense of whether or not you're overweight on equities at 30% or not.
No, we are not. Because what we have is actually we have what we call asset allocation model. Now, as you know very well, it has been said that the returns of an institution or investment is as a result of your strategic asset allocation. So we have what we have determined as the ideal allocation for us. And basically it ranges within those ranges in terms of the
But again, I want to think like a CFA here and take you through that strategic asset allocation line. This is getting interesting because if we're to use that particular line and you're tied to only EAC investments, wouldn't it be time for you to move towards the frontier markets and invest more over there? Is it time for us to rethink the legislation?
Thank you. Actually, it is the right time to rethink the legislation.
Apple, Amazon,
yes.
Tencent.
Yes, that's the right time to move through, but we would have to work through the legislation. Where we're operating last year is the current legislation. If we moved out, it would be illegal, unlawful. And you know, as a member, you don't want that.
No, but it's actually very frustrating because you mentioned just a few hours ago that last 6 years we've had only 2 IPOs.
Yes.
Give me a sense of, have you proposed this to the legislators? We need to open up.
We actually have. Well, one of the things we said, let's even emulate Kenya, because Kenya allows 5% of their portfolio to be outside, offshore, outside the region. They're discussing it, they're thinking about it. But some of these things, there's a political economy. I think it's Uganda, it needs to stay in Uganda within East Africa. So over time, I think people will understand that you have diversification that needs to occur if you open up.
Patrick, we're actually running out of time.
Yes.
2 things. One is the role of standard rating agencies, the need for this. Would that hasten the IPO process? The other is last year, I was going through your financials for last year, and I saw you shrunk. You went very, very underweight on cash. What actually caused this? Is this the same thing this time around?
No. Cash actually, cash is not productive. You really don't want to have cash on your books. Because why hold cash if you can buy
a treasury bill
or treasury bond? We buy treasury bonds or treasury bills, which, as you know, are marketable. So if I need to liquidate, I'll actually liquidate. Otherwise, cash sitting on the books doesn't really serve a purpose.
Rating agencies?
Rating agencies would more help on the bond side, the debt side of the market.
But wouldn't that hasten the process of more IPOs if you actually had more credit rating agencies rating on the private side?
The problem in Uganda is not so much lack of rating agencies. The problem in Uganda is we still have a culture where we want to own 100% of what you have. Until people are willing to know that it will never grow past you if you hold that, they need to let it go. Kenyans, let it go.
Patrick, many thanks for making time to speak to us.
Thank you very much.